Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. The meeting will be starting shortly. While we wait, let's learn more about Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
So that's the first thing on the agenda. I want to welcome everybody this evening. Nice to be back in the NOAC room for a meeting. I will do introductions. To my left is Darius Thompson, our newest member. He is also the vice chair. And to my right is Dave Short, who's in his second year, correct? Second year as a trustee. So, first item on the next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody that wants to make any public comments at this time? If not, we'll move right along. Next item is approving the minutes. So, I have I have quite a few minutes here to approve. So we have some sidewalk minutes that Mr. Thompson was not involved with, so I'll go through. Dave, any errors or omissions on the minutes of 225 sidewalk minutes?
No.
There is one. I spelled your last name without an H, so I'll correct those. Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes of 2/26, which was a quick meeting with the tree committee.
They were fine?
Any errors or omissions?
No.
Move to accept.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sidewalk minutes of 3/28. Mr. Thompson, you actually videoed this, so does anybody note any errors or omissions in this?
No.
Move to accept.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Usually I have a few grammatical errors, so
You're good.
spelling errors.
I'm making my little notes here, but I realize that both of you have the initials DS.
Yes,
I have the initials DT.
yes.
We all have D.
Yeah.
When I'm doing minutes for the site walk, I have to really stop and think about how I do the motions and the seconds with you guys, so.
Okay. I'll help you.
All right. The virtual meeting on April 7th. Did anybody have any errors or omissions or spelling corrections in those minutes?
That's the virtual one where I had no corrections.
Motion to accept?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the last one is the site walk of 4/28. Does anybody note any errors or omissions or spelling changes that need to be done in that one?
No.
No.
Motion to accept?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So I will send those minutes to Pam so she can post them. Next item on the agenda I have is use of the parkway. And I actually want to kind of meld both of these in the use of the parkway and the meeting with the select board into one item, or there'll probably be some overlaps. So the first thing that I'd like us to talk about is some of the emails that I have forwarded to you about the concerts that are going on down in the Parkway, being kind of loud for the neighborhood. And one quote that I want to just pass on out of those emails was a resident down there that asked if people would just remember that they're playing to the people in the Parkway and not the rest of the town. So I know that I did, or that email had been forwarded to our select board rep, but I think it's something that we should also put on a list to talk to the select board about when we meet with them. What's your feeling on that, Dave?
I agree. It's the neighbors, especially the people that are direct or close abutters. There needs to be some consideration taken for them, because it's, the comments I hear personally, because a lot of people that live there walk by my house, and the duration is also an issue.
I've heard that also.
I think those are the two big ones: the volume and the duration that I've heard.
Darius?
I'm only aware with my own experience in terms of walking down. It is very loud relative to as you approach to get to the bandstand. But and reviewing another complaint or an email that we received from an abutter or someone that's nearby the park, definitely talked about the duration and the level of the noise. And then of course, you have the frequency in which they occur, of which there seems to be an increasing number of events that occur over the course of the season, so to speak, now that we're getting out of the pandemic. But it is something that definitely warrants further discussion and consideration.
Well, and the abutter that sent that email early on came into a meeting of the trustees back in 2019 and expressed some of the same concerns. So I think that we should actually try and pass that on to the select board when we meet with them. I know that I counted up between team and the Park and Rec, there's 9 concerts this year down there. And again, I want to be very conscious of how the abutters feel about that. And, they shouldn't have to plan on leaving their home for the time that those events are going on. So I can put it on the list to add for when we meet with the select board, if that's agreeable to everybody.
Well, I think it all comes under the umbrella, though, again, of everything else is moot until the role of the trustees is defined by the select board.
I don't disagree with that either, but I also think that if we're getting emails, we should be.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
People are looking to the trustees, how they used to work, and I'd like to see them kind of get back to that, if we can do that, so.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the use of the parkway?
Just the degree, what is the appropriate degree of commercialization at the parkway? And when I say commercialization, profit, nonprofit, events and all that sort of thing, what, outside of it just being a park, what level of planned activities should there be there? I think that has to be figured out also.
I agree, and we also have talked over this last year with our site walks and even before this, in 2019 with the site walks that we did. Swasey Parkway is due for some type of renovation work, and somehow everybody that uses that and us and the select board need to come to some common ground on how are we going to renovate the parkway so it doesn't just turn into a big dust bowl and from overuse, and we can keep it a nice green space, which is what it's always been. So I agree. We need to. There's a
balance there that's got to be
correct.
That's got to be struck.
Correct.
It's great to have these gatherings. People. It's great that we have a place where people from town can get together. But again, I think there needs to be a little more definition to that.
Just out of curiosity, I was asking this question just as an observation. At a recent event, I walked down. Well, we had 2 things that occurred. One, there was an event that was occurring at the park, and the police officers were there, and I asked a question that says, we have a sign there that says there's no dogs allowed, right? So the sign, all the interest says no dogs allowed, $100 fine. So I asked the police officer, who enforces that? Is it code enforcement? Is it animal control? Or is it the trustees? And the answer I received was the trustees, that we're responsible for, at least according to
No.
their observation, that we're responsible for that. I don't know if that's the case because it's a town ordinance. That being said, another observation, when there was an event, a scheduled approved event that was there, I just happened to observe there were a lot of vendors that were there for an event, and I had a safety concern when I noticed that I was walking along the parkway and I saw a long extension cord, and I followed it just visually, and it was plugged into one of the lampposts. So there's an outlet on the lamppost that someone was using electricity and used an extension cord, just a regular, look, it wasn't a heavy duty one, a regular extension cord to run some cooking equipment or some type of smoker or something. Also went further down just to take a look at what was occurring with at the bandstand, or the pavilion. And of course, the electricity used there for the performers, I get that part. But I also noticed that there was another ice cream vendor that was plugged into to refrigerate their equipment during the duration of this event. So the question I have is, if that's a town building, do the trustees get billed for electricity? The use of any electricity in the park, do we receive a bill for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So, just as an observation, I don't think, if I recall, in the approval of all the forms and everything that occur for use of the parkway to have events, I don't see anything being that they're free to use electricity as much as being used. And if we're being billed for it, and it's a town facility, and the town's billing us for it, I think that we may want to consider as a topic for discussion later, or to bring it with the select board, about a service fee. Don't know if that's a slippery slope, but I just wanted to mention as an observation.
Well, let me just say that in 2020, I observed the same thing, took some pictures, sent them off, did not get much of a response about some of those safety items. Also, what I would like to do, and I'd like you guys to do, because the pavilion, and again, if you look at 3 different documents that's listed on the town, the pavilion is supposed to be a town building. I have maintained that you should have a permit to use it. There's a fee to use it, along with a fee to the parkway. But it has been explained to me that and it is on the permit, when you fill it out, you can check off the pavilion, and there is no fee for that. It's part of use of the parkway. So I know that there was a lot of work went into restructuring the fees in 2018 and 2019. I think that we should ask the select board to revisit that. Also, in a document dated 2019 with all of that, the pavilion is listed as a town building. So if you go to all these different documents, they don't line up in their explanation. So I think that should be brought before the select board when we meet with them.
Okay.
So it's something that I would like to bring up for discussion with them.
Just a point of inquiry, and historically speaking, and I'm not well-versed, but if there's anyone present or amongst the trustees that can answer this question, is that I believe I recall there was a fundraising effort to actually fund and build the pavilion for Friends of the Swasey Park, yes? Is that correct or incorrect?
I don't think it was Friends of Swasey Park. Was it? Mr. Dansel, can you answer that?
It was a group of, Mark
And-
Damsel. It was a group of...
Please state where you live, please.
Mark William Damsel, 10 Newfields Road here in Exeter.
Thank you.
I believe it was back in 2008 the pavilion was built. I'm not really sure if it was called Friends of the Pavilion. And just to reiterate what you're talking about now about the fee of the pavilion and the fee of the parkway, I think there has to be a definition of the fee of the park and the fee of the pavilion, because we all know that we have to do the pavilion roof over and the maintenance of the pavilion. So there is money in a separate account for maintenance of the pavilion, but I think as we're moving forward, people that do use the pavilion should be charged accordingly to keep the maintenance of the pavilion up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that we should talk about that. We should talk about that with the select board, but what I also would like to do, and I know I sent out the questions that I've asked over the last 2 years, 3 years, and what I would like to do, if it's okay with everybody and we're all in agreement, to take these questions and send them to the select board before our meeting so that they have them, so that it might expedite some of the conversations on this.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree, or?
I agree, and would it be helpful to just review what those questions are so those that are watching can understand? Or I know that I've read them, I'm looking at them again.
It'd be nice to have our select board rep here to transmit our concerns to the select board.
Okay.
But we don't.
Sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to let you guys know, because I'd love to try emailing you guys about maybe having someone call her into the meeting. She was unable to make it, but if you needed her, she could,
We don't.
you guys could call her or something. Just want to let you know that she emailed you guys.
All right, thank you. I just, again, as we're talking about the use of the Parkway meeting with the select boards, I'm jotting down some notes so I can add to that list.
Certainly.
But I go back to what Davis said, and I have asked this question. I think moving forward, we really need to understand what our duties are. There is an MOU that was signed back in 1979 between the trustees and the select board. I can find nowhere where that has been voted that they do not have to follow it. So I would like to see us get back to some type of working arrangement with the select board at the Parkway.
Well, it also seems too like there's at least been 2 instances. And Darius brought up the dog one, which I wasn't aware there was a discussion about whose role it was to enforce that. But again, it seems to me that direction needs to come from the select. I don't believe it is the trustees' responsibility to be down there trying to find people. But at the same time, the select board, kicking that over to us because it's kind of an uncomfortable question. It's kind of like the yoga thing. That was somewhat controversial. It was uncomfortable, and we're out of the loop on most things. It seems like the uncomfortable things get thrown on our plate.
Observation, I wouldn't disagree with you. I thought as a newly elected trustee, I made my opinion very clear. That's a business trying to operate on the Parkway and using, the Parkway as free space for free rent or free use of the Parkway to operate a business. And I just think that that's just kind of goes against the whole I get it, yoga's important, the whole thing. I just think that there should be another location where that could be done. And speaking of which, I'm just curious, now that some of the COVID restrictions have been lifted, just curious to find out if they now have another place to go, or are they still using the parkway to have their yoga sessions on the basis on which they were under. I thought they were going to do it until the pandemic ended.
I drive by there every day at all different times of the day, and I still have never seen a class there. Mark, have you seen a class there? No?
Park Street.
What's that?
Park Street.
Park Street Common is where they're doing it?
I'm not sure if it's the same people.
Okay.
Well,
But I personally have not witnessed them holding a class there yet.
Okay.
And I would think that I would have by now,
Right.
because I guess they were going to do it around noon each day, and,
well, they were also in the roadway, so.
Right, which
is what it was. And as long as the roadway is closed, I would think that, they are able to use it, so.
It's out of our purview, so to speak.
Correct. Speaking of the road closure, that is something that I know that the select board would like to hear our opinion on. So I'll start with Dave, and then Darius, and then myself. So Dave.
what, just opinion?
Opinion on the road closure, yeah.
I support it. I don't think it should be a through street. But at the same time, I think that for people that have mobility issues, we have to make some sort of accommodation for them to be able to access the parkway. And, one idea that I've had, and I think I've talked to both you guys about this. I talked to Nico about it also, having the north end open to some degree, and allow people to drive in that can't necessarily park a distance away and walk to the park. Whether it's a handicap, age, what have you. Because I don't think those people should be shut out of there. And I think there's a way to do it. But the idea of keeping it as an open throughway, I think it's been pretty successful and pretty well received. The only blowback I've heard is the lack of access for people, again, who can't walk a distance to get to it from the nearest parking lot. So that's my stand on it.
Darius?
From observations of watching prior trustee board meetings, as well as now being a trustee member, and also just observing what occurs at the north end, I think that the suggestion and recommendation, I believe one of the former trustees, Mark Damsel, who's present, presented at one point in time was to utilize some funding or grant or something to that nature of while they were doing tearing up the whole parkway to put in the new sewage or the requirement that they had to do. That was a perfect opportunity to create a small turnaround to create that north end access to allow people to come up to that point to possibly the pump house and be able to turn around and utilize very little additional road space to allow that to occur. I think that keeping that other section of the road closed, to have it only go to a certain portion, eliminates the people speeding and coming through there at night because, again, the parkway is closed at dusk.
Yep.
Not supposed to be any traffic. So that brings up another issue that I heard about, where there was somebody holding an event for a Strawberry Moon event at night, which the parkway's closed. You should not be holding an event, and there's no permit for that at all. Unless you have a permit, then you can hold an event in the evening, as we have done in the years past with the Christmas parade and after the Christmas parade. But that said, I am in support of having some type of access up to a certain point from the north end because it is a long walk. Another observation I had was another event that occurred. I was walking down the parkway from the south end, walking towards the pavilion, and I was just completely shocked and floored that one of the volunteers for this event, while they had a handicap plate, they parked on the parkway, on the grass, on the park. I'm like, I understand you're a volunteer and I understand you may be handicapped, but I think you should not park your car in the park. You should park it on the parkway. So it's just some common sense stuff, and I think that if they want to have the road, again, it's up to the select board, but my opinion would be to do something to expand access for those that cannot get down there halfway, some type of turnaround that can be done sustainably and, have minimal impact to the green space of the park.
Well, one thing I'd like to add too is I also had the thought of, before we sank money into creating a turnaround or anything like that, gates, deciding where to position gates and that sort of thing, the select board on an experimental approach could try bringing the barricades down from the north end to the blockhouse driveway, just to the south of that, and make the blockhouse driveway the turnaround. And no money involved. It gives it a chance to kind of give a trial run to that idea and see how it's received, see how it's utilized, see how effective it is. And it would also get those ugly orange barriers right out of the front of the parkway. But I think that would be well worth the select board exploring that. Just try it out for a few months and see what kind of reception and utility it has.
Okay. I have asked a couple of people about that idea because I know, Dave, you had talked to me about that. The one comment that has come up about that is ADA, because there is no access from that back end to, or very limited access from the north end to the block building for handicapped people. It's similar to the conversation that has been having with the Pocket Park. If they open the road, do they move it in to where the crosswalk is so that they don't have to do a curb cut right there at the end? So again, there was an ADA question that had come up. And I did not have an answer for that. I think that I'm not opposed to having that trial idea to see how that would work. But I think ultimately, for me and for the emails that I've gotten and the feedback that I've gotten from people, I'm going to stick with, I'd like to see it one way from town to the Newfields Road end so that people can go in and drive again and sit in that shaded area, enjoy the scenery, enjoy lunch. And that's just my opinion. So, but ultimately it is a town road, and the select board, I know there's avenues that they can close it if they want to. They have to do some things first, but we all have our different opinion on it, and I think that's good, because that's what makes the board work, actually.
Well, and ultimately, it's not our decision anyways. We're just presenting our thoughts,
Correct.
our ideas, and they can take with them take those and do what they wish with them.
Correct.
So, just point of inquiry, that if this is a town road, and if they're wanting to make a decision, should this not be something that could be brought up with recommendations as a warrant article to say, okay, voters, you decide?
Well, I think there's a process there,
Okay.
Darius.
All right,
That's my
fine.
understanding. There's a process that they have to go through, and it's not it's a kind of a long, drawn-out
Plus
process. so.
the Attorney General
Right.
first,
it's a whole-
Correct.
Yeah.
and then the town warrant.
The other question is that at one point in time, there was no road. There was no, it was land at one point, right? It was the town dump, or was used as a dump.
Correct, but since it was a parkway, there was always a road that
So-
was built when the original parkway was built.
Okay.
Correct. So there's always technically been a road there. And if you read the trust, it says that the road is for pleasure
Pleasure vehicles, yeah.
vehicles, so.
Yeah.
The one last thing that I want to make sure that we ask the select board, and we have several waiting, is donations. How do people make donations to the parkway? What account does it go into? Actually, we have the yoga people have donated some money for trees. I know they sent Dave an email, and those emails were forwarded to me. I say trees, they have a donation.
It's $400.
They said one tree, but I think, that would go for a couple of trees. And then the tree committee
Gwen English.
would like to donate, they want to donate a tree to the parkway. And then we have a gentleman who has a granite bench down there who wants to make a donation to the pavilion reconstruction. And he also has set up a perpetual trust for the maintenance of his bench, and I'm thinking it's his bench, the bricks that are in front of his bench, and maybe even the tree.
Probably the tree.
Dave, I know you've been involved with that. So we've had some people approach us about donations, but we just don't know how this all gets accepted. And there has been some questions about that, but I haven't gotten a definitive answer. Same thing with the bench that needs to be replaced down there, that we can't find the family, any family members still surviving. And we voted to purchase a new bench, and I'm still waiting to hear how we can do that. So, there's some other questions that I would like to address with the select board.
Did you find, this is just an aesthetic question, but did you ever find out, are those benches available on anything besides that gray?
Oh, I did not. I have not asked yet.
So there's no catalog or?
There is a catalog, and maybe, Mark, do those benches come in any other color other than gray? Those new benches? Do you know?
Yeah, I definitely would have to look at the catalog,
Okay.
but I do believe they may come in like a brown, like a wooden, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Aesthetically, that'd be a big improvement, I think. Yeah.
All right.
So, as a point of reference, I will speak from my, 18 years' experience of working with a all-volunteer committee. So we put on, many of you may or may not know, I was involved with the Exeter Holiday Parade, Christmas Parade for many years as the managing director. So the way that worked, we did have a warrant article many years ago that actually funded, there's a town account that's funded every year to help offset the cost for the parade. Additionally, because people want to make donations and because we're trying to raise additional money, we needed an account to put that money in. Because of some issues that occurred prior to my involvement, we had to put some controls were put in place to ensure that as a committee volunteer member, you could deposit money into that account. Only a few people could, but you always deposit money in. We could never take any money out. I couldn't go to that account and say, I want to take money out. We followed a process to ensure with the town auditors and worked with the finance department and Doreen to set up the process similar to how we do a voucher. You submit a voucher, you submit an invoice in, you fill it out, it had to be reimbursed, what it's for and so on, and then they have two accounts. One account would be for utilize the funds that came from the town, they would use that first. You would have a separate account with Citizens Bank as an example, through the town treasurer, that you would have to submit your invoices in, say what you're looking for, and I want it to come out of this account, and it would come out of that account. The benefit of that is there's still control, but as we know, when we are allocated funds from the town, you have to use it, budget, use it or lose it, basically.
Correct.
You have to use that up. But if we have individuals that are wanting to make donations to the Parkway, there should be the controls in place to set it up. I know we have to do things to the trustee of the trust right now for the trust that was set up and established. But as far as there's another account, my understanding that the town donates to and the departments and controls are all there, we should have the ability as trustees to set that up with finance, and they have the controls in place and full transparency. Any monies or funds that are donated, we can have a report of what's been donated, what's there, what the balance is, and it can be shared with any one of the trustees. But in order to receive any funds from that, you would have to have at least 2 signatures of the trustees, so full, right?
Right.
And it has to go through the process, document it, and so on. So that can be done. I don't think that's a heavy lift, and I don't think that's anything that's necessarily we need to have the select board's approval to do. It's my opinion. But I think we could inform them that this is what we'd like to do, but also partner and work with the finance chair to set that up.
I think the select board actually would appreciate going that route, because like when the yoga studio, Tracy contacted Nico also about it, and it's a little more convoluted process for the town to accept that money
That's correct.
than it would be for us, and he recommended to her to come to the trustees to do that.
So I think as trustees, we could follow and work with Doreen, come up with the best recommendations, spell it out for all of us to look at and make sure we agree upon it, share it, and,
Yep.
share it with the select board. This is what we're looking to do. This is what we're recommending. We're looking for your blessing. Not that we would necessarily need it, but to inform them, this is how we like to set it up to stay within the controls, and it's fully auditable, transparent,
Right.
Yeah, I just want to see it set up the correct way.
Exactly.
That's all.
Yep.
So the money,
I don't think it's a big deal. Yeah, it makes total sense, and you already did it once with, your other group.
Yeah, that was set up many years ago.
Yeah, so it's not, it should be very straightforward.
But,
All right.
yeah, it should, like I said, to your point, Mr. Chair, it should be done the right way.
okay, so is there anything else that we want to make on a list to submit to the select board before our meeting, or have we covered it pretty much?
I think,
And we just, we go there and we let the conversation go the way that it goes.
I think a big one is, as I wrote to you in that email, is I think we need to be in the loop on everything going on, or the select board should just take it all over themselves. It's there's too many things we've found out after the fact or through the grapevine or whatever. Just simple things like applications for permits, events, things like that. We should be CC'd on that.
Sorry, Mike's just having a little trouble.
I'm not enunciating clearly, am I?
Sure.
So, but I guess it basically comes down again to the level of communication.
And also to the roles and responsibilities as far as what our role is, what our responsibility is. And I again, getting back to the permitting, when you look at the permit, part of the permitting process our approval has to be there.
Or at least our review.
All right, our review.
Before the final approval is made, allow us to comment upon it. At a minimum, allow us to comment on it. And so it's a global discussion, what we need to have with them.
So just a point of inquiry relative to the permitting process. So when these events occur, right, the scheduled events, so if you're having we have a reoccurring event that occurs every Thursday, right, with the farmers market every Thursday.
Right.
They're in the parkway itself.
Right.
When other events are being held by nonprofits or for-profits, or as example, the fireworks that are coming up, right? We're going to have performers there. There's going to be a lot of stuff. There's also National Night Out. There's all these events are occurring. They're occurring in the parkway, but the green space is being used, which we want it to be used. But one thing that comes with that use is that we need to figure a way to pay for that maintenance, because every year it seems that we're replacing the lawn, having to deal with reseeding the lawn, which is, I guess, is a good thing to have, but at some point that may become a very expensive thing to do year over year if we're not finding ways to offset that cost.
Right.
And yes, the park should be there for everyone to use, but it does come at an expense. And we need to find a way to help offset that. So as an example, if they're having the Beer and Chili Festival, it's a very large event. They're going to be using the entire park and the entire parkway or main section of the green space there.
Yeah.
Again, it may be too late this time, but to look at some way to help. They're generating revenue, they're paying money, have to go in. You can't get in there for free. And there are vendors, and so we need to look at some way to generate recovery fees or something to help. Again, that's just
When the Park and Rec has done the Beer and Chili Fest, they do make a sizable donation to the parkway.
Okay, I was unaware of that. But.
And I think a lot of people are unaware of that. And it is a donation that they make. In the past, it has been $2,000. So that event, they do make a sizable donation back to the Swasey trustees for the use of the parkway at that event.
And to the best of your knowledge, does that go in? So I'm going to ask a question about where does it go?
Yeah.
That $2,000, does it go back into the fund? Where does that go? Does it go to the fund or the account that's used that we have to use for the year, or does it go to a separate trustee of the trust account? Or if we don't know, that's fine.
No, I think it goes into our maintenance account, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
There are two accounts currently. We have a maintenance account, and then we have an account that the fees for the parkway goes into.
Okay.
And actually, it may go into the fees for the parkway. I'm not 100% sure. I should know. I may have spoken too early as to exactly where that goes into, but.
So there is a mechanism in place for accepting donations already.
Potentially, yes. So I think it would warrant further discussion with the finance chair, Doreen, to get the answer, because I rather would go to the source versus trying to go to the select board to give me an answer on finance. That's not their purview.
My view is that there is potentially an avenue, yes.
Okay.
But I also don't want a donation to get lost in the mix of either account without some type of system to track that.
Well, yeah, you want to honor the intention of the donation.
Correct.
You don't want it to go into a general maintenance fund.
Correct.
If it's being donated for a specific use.
Correct.
Some
Like
sort.
if it, you
Yeah.
know, if we're getting a donation for the perpetual care of a bench, it shouldn't go into the general maintenance fund that's going to get used for tree removal or pruning or things of that nature. You know, it should be just, it should be an individual line items, just like the budget committee works with.
Right.
So,
Yep.
okay.
Is
Go ahead.
that something that we need to communicate somewhere on our public-facing information page if you want to make a donation to, once we figure out how best to do this, that they can earmark for certain things and what they want it to, you know, to try to put some standardization around if someone makes a general fund donation or to the maintenance of the trees or whatever it is. I guess it's up to the donor,
Yeah.
but
Correct. The only thing that we are not accepting at the moment is new benches. Because we voted in 2019 not to put any more new benches down in the Parkway until there was a master plan.
and for a master plan, is that something that we need to determine as trustees?
Well, we have tried to do that, and we haven't been really successful about that. So I think, again, that's something that we need to explore a little bit further and a little more in depth. That's why I bring up the renovation of the Parkway. I brought that up the first year I was chair, and we didn't get much traction on it. And then the master plan was brought up, and so last year we had COVID, and I know that during our site walk meetings that we've had, we have talked about that the Parkway is getting tired.
Mm-hmm.
There should be some renovation work down there, done down there, and
But, again,
well,
what can we do? It's like the pavilion roof and pillars. That was all in place. We had some excellent prices from some very well-qualified people to take care of that work. It'd be done by now.
Right, and every day we go by, it's deteriorating more and more.
Well, and then kind of out of the blue, it got taken away from us, saying, no, guys, that's not your job. So that would make me a little leery of plunging into trying to put some sort of master plan together, because, we can do all we want, but at the end of the day, it's got to be a cooperative effort between us and the board.
Okay.
But the pavilion, to me, was a perfect example of that. That should have been done by now. It would have been done by now.
And just a point of inquiry, someone correct me if I'm wrong, the pavilion sits in the park itself, it's not in the Parkway, is that correct?
Yes.
The land,
sits in the park.
so the pavilion sits in the park, the land, so just for sake of discussion, I was trying to understand, say that this line on the desk is the road that goes to the park. This is parkland.
Right.
This is parkland. This is the Parkway.
Right.
Did the trustees lease the pavilion to the town?
No.
Did we gift the land to them?
No. At one time, the permitting process for the pavilion was under the trustees' auspices. When they built the new pavilion, there was a maintenance fund that was set aside. And then I don't know the exact history of this, but at some point, and I think Mr. Damsel was on the board at that time, the trustees turned that all over to the town. the maintenance fund and the permitting process of the pavilion, because if you want to have a wedding at the pavilion, you have to go through the town permitting process. And that permitting fee went to the pavilion fund via the town. So the trustees voted to give all of that maintenance fund, everything to the town.
So they voted to give it to the town, but the trustees did not vote to give away the land underneath.
No.
Well, but
So
it's not as if though the trustees have the level of control of the land that we are going to be able to be giving it to the town to use.
Okay.
It all comes back, and it shouldn't be that kind of relationship anyways.
I understand. I'm not asking for an adversarial relationship. I'm just asking questions in the sense I'm looking for opportunities to see that pavilion sits on the parkway, parkland,
Right.
sits on the park. Well, if it's a town building sitting on the park, somebody has to pay something for that, taxes or whatever it is. If we're charged taxes, I don't know if we are. We're not. Okay.
No.
So, again, if they're using that building sits there, that to me, just thinking, is that an opportunity for us to actually, we're charged for the electricity that's being used, right? And so, well, why can't we charge them for the use of that square footage where they land? Because it's not available for, it's only available for use as a town building where it sits there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why it comes back to that that memorandum of understanding.
Right, and that's, to me, so to that point, I believe that in my opinion, the pavilion should be back under the control of the trustees, but I may be a super minority in feeling that way. But again, it is a town building at this point, and
I
leave it at that.
Correct.
I don't think it really matters from a control standpoint who's controlling it per se. I think it just needs to be clear. Whose job is it to take care of it? Whose job is it to allow the use of it, and that sort of thing. And if it's if the town wants to handle that, fine. If the town wants the trustees to handle it, fine. But you can't have, it can't be something where you do it on a case-by-case basis.
Right. Only other question for topic is just about electricity.
Yep.
All these events are using electricity, and a safety standpoint, I think all those outlets should be locked, and nobody should have a key to it, or they should be removed, or why is there an access? So my concern is that if there's no lock on the outlet that's on the lamppost, kid could get electrocuted or something. The power is always on.
Yeah.
To all the vendors that are using that electricity, somebody has to pay for it. And if it's coming out of the trustees' budget, we're paying for that. I know there's some fees that come back, but maybe we look at, adding a service fee. If you're using electricity, it's a $200 service fee or something of that nature.
Well,
Or we could, another way to address that too would be just through the budget committee each year, find out what the yearly electrical costs are and request that to be included in the calculations of the money that's allocated to the care of the park. And because that way it spreads the burden across everybody.
It does spread the burden across everybody, but it comes back to myself as a taxpayer.
Right.
I'm paying for that.
Right. And if you as a taxpayer don't like that, then you have the option of voting out
Right.
the person who made the decision to go that route.
Well,
Yeah.
I think also it comes back to a conversation about looking at the permitting process again.
Right.
Because I know when we looked at that, again, there was a lot of work that went into that. There were some people that actually got to the point where they said, you know what, maybe we should just not have a fee for anybody that uses it. You know, why are we doing a for-profit, a not-for-profit? Why do we have different levels of fees? Why do we, you know, and that conversation went on for a long time, actually. So I think it goes back to the permitting process, and I think that that's something that I would like to ask the select board to take another look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
With respect to, nonprofits or for-profits, if they're having an event on the parkway and they're wanting their fee to be waived, whether profit or nonprofit, but yet they're selling space allocation on the parkway for whatever amount of money, whether it's $75, $100 per spot, and they're asking for suggested donations, and they're not getting billed for use of electricity, but they want things for free, but yet they're generating this revenue or this money. I'm just saying, to me, that just kind of looks like a business. I understand it brings people to the area, helps the economy, the whole thing, but there has to be some type of balance between what's fair and what's right, whether they're for-profit or nonprofit. If it's the same fee, it's the same fee. It's used to use, it helps offset the care and maintenance of the park. So that's just my 2 cents.
No, again, that was a conversation that went on, and I think it's a permitting fee conversation that
Okay.
we should revisit moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something.
No,
Okay.
I was going to say I agree with everything you guys are saying.
All right. So, let me put together this list and all, and we can take a look at it before we meet with the select board. I think they were looking at the meeting in July. I haven't got definitive confirmation on that, but I'm sure we will after this meeting. So the other thing that I would like to do tonight is, I think I have talked with the both of you at some point. I did go down, I did walk the parkway, after we had one of our site walks meetings, and we're looking at some of the other trees that the woodpecker had got into. We have that elm tree at the end of the parkway that's dying and dying rapidly. That big ash that we had looked at that the woodpecker had got in, that is definitely not doing well. I think some of that is from the sewer construction that went through there years ago, because it's about the time that you would start to see that tree start to deteriorate. So I'd like to set up a site walk meeting to walk down through there. I think there's a number of trees that we should look at for removal.
There's a lot.
And you're right. No, you're right. There is a lot. It's just not a small number anymore. And with some of the donations that people want to make of trees, they can be replaced. And I think that some of those trees are going to be posing a hazard in the very near future. So can we set a site walk? I'd like to do it next week if people are available. Does that work for you guys, or?
What day?
Yeah, call it a Wednesday again.
Do you want to do it on the 7th?
7th. What time?
Let's do it early. Or as early as possible, put it that way.
5:30, does that work?
Yeah,
Darius?
The 7th is a very busy day for me at work, but
Okay.
I will make it work.
Well,
I'll make it work.
What I'd like to do is either go down with a paint can and just put a dot on the tree like
Right.
people do when they want to selective cut in their woods or tie a ribbon, so we can get some bids back on this and see where that all lies, because
just what we're looking at for costs.
right.
So
Yeah.
I would, in the interest of transparency, I would think it would be great, and to Exeter TV, if you're listening, which I know you are, it would be great to actually participate in that, and we can do a little video segment, either something to let the public know what a site walk looks like, and to possibly put together some entertaining or informational video that talks about the trees and why we need to have them removed. So I just think it might be a good content as a suggestion. Whether that happens or not, I don't know.
I think it's more important just to get down there, get
Yes.
through the parkway, get the trees identified, get some costs, and I would prefer to keep it as simple as possible.
Again, I understand, but it's something simple. I'm more than happy to videotape and, save it and that
Yeah,
part, but.
I mean, that's worked in the past.
Right.
And that way we kind of keep moving along.
Certainly.
Well,
There's a lot to look at there.
you know what, too? Why can't we do the sidewalk, mark the trees, and then we can also have a time where if and I could do this, or we could do it as a board, an informational session where if people want to come, I know that hasn't been real successful in the past, but if people want to come down, we can walk them through and tell them why some of these trees need to be removed, not should be, not maybe, but need to be removed.
Right.
So that, and if they have questions at that time, we can do that.
Certainly.
On the 7th, we can kind of move through and mark.
Okay.
There's quite a number of trees that I have seen walking down through there that I think that we should address. And this can be part of the renovation project also, because I think that, there's some trees behind the Harris Center that are declining, that should be taken out. There's that big ash, there's that elm, and then there's some other ones along the way, so.
The red Norways, there's a bunch of those that are junk.
Yep.
It's
And there are a couple of trees that still have the little signs down at the bottom that they were a tree donated in somebody's memory, so, and there's a couple of those that you can still read that, again, are deteriorating, that are gonna become a hazard, so.
Well, when I was there watering today, I had plenty of time to look at things, and
Right.
it's just, there's a lot. And
Right.
Regardless of renovation, master plan, whatever, they need to happen regardless of where
Right.
where that is going.
Right?
So I'd like to make a motion that we have a site walk meeting next week, Wednesday, the 7th of July, at the appropriate early time in the day, where we go by and mark the trees. I would be more than happy to take a short little picture or video or something, just in case anyone wants information-wise, to then eventually set up a information session to talk about that with the public at a future meeting, to discuss why these trees need to be removed. So.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, on the 7th, we'll meet at the Water Street end,
What the time?
5:30?
5:30, yes.
Is 5:30
that's
okay
fine.
for you?
Yeah, I'll make it happen.
I mean, I'll be coming straight from work, so,
And also then, I guess, since we probably won't be having a meeting before this should take place, I'd like to make a motion that we then, after we've done our site walk, contact tree companies that have done work for us before, a minimum of 3, and solicit some bids so that we can start to get an idea of what kind of costs we're looking at.
I agree, and we should also, during our site walk, sorry, you made that as a motion.
Yep.
So, I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and I would also say that we, during our site walk, we need to make sure that we lay out some specifics, bid specifications.
Yes.
So that these tree companies can follow them.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So, point of inquiry, now that we've made the motions and passed that we're going to have a site walk meeting, and it's less than 7 days from now, or 6 days and how many hours? Do we want to consider this to be public notice, or do we need to actually get something out right away? And because of the safety nature of this is why we're not doing the full week, because this is something that needs to be addressed, similar to how that the hemlock had the big hole in it that was about the size of my head.
Correct.
Right.
I will send something to Pam in the morning.
Okay.
So she can post, but if we continue to put this off, because like that big ash, it is deteriorating fast. The elm is deteriorating fast, and
Well, the one half of that elm was, within a week with this heat,
right,
it basically finished it off.
right, and
It's gone.
and like a very good tree guy that I used to use quite a bit would say, Dwayne, it might last 20 seconds, it might last 20 years. You just don't know. So, I think that I think this is something that we should jump on and do. The last business that I have is our regular monthly meetings. We always met on the third Wednesday of the month. Do we want to go back to that? That was just
Sure.
That was our scheduled meeting.
Why not?
So for July, that would be the 21st.
That's fine by me.
Dave?
Yep.
I just want to make sure nobody's got vacations or anything.
Well, then it starts becoming a little more regular again.
So it's the third Wednesday.
Yes.
We're doing 6 o'clock.
Yes, we can do 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Actually, 6 o'clock probably works best for
Everybody.
everybody because 5:30 tends to be a little bit tight for work.
Right.
With the site walk, we can come right from work, but, so, we're going back to the third Wednesday.
You just got to start closing earlier.
The only thing that may come up for me, and I just don't know where and how that's going to play into, but I should be able to work all around it. We're getting ready to do a big project for my work, and if it requires my travel to DC, then that may
Yep.
prevent that. But I don't think that that's going to happen for a while. So
If you would just,
I'll let you know well in advance.
Let me know as soon as possible, and we can move that.
I will not be here in August, I know that. So,
August, all of August, or?
no, just.
The 18th?
Going to visit my daughter and my son, so.
No problem. So we can
So
move,
you
we can
two-
move the
wait,
one in August.
No, you two guys, or.
We can still meet. We just can't make a decision. Well,
Yeah, you can, you still
we
have a
can
quorum.
quorum, yeah.
Yeah, as long as there's two of us.
Yep.
There's no, I would say just,
We can tweak that, Dave. We can tweak that.
well, it doesn't, yeah, well, so we can talk about it in July.
Sure. All right.
So I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
How's the chair?
Aye. So we adjourn at
13,
I had 7:12, but
7:11 I have on the computer here.
you got coffee in your.
time for
pocket, huh?
Slurpee?
Thank you, guys.